Hello and welcome to the video briefing from AgilePoint. This video will be broken up into a few major components. Up front, we'll cover off some of the core functionalities available in AgilePoint NX and why they're overall crucial to our customers' success. Afterwards, I'll focus in on some of the new capabilities that have been added into AgilePoint version 7 to enable the less technical user or citizen developer to build their own end-to-end process and data-driven applications. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in then. What I have up on screen here is AgilePoint Public Cloud, which we give our customers the choice of running on either AWS or Azure Infrastructure as a Service. In addition to the public cloud, we do also offer a private or dedicated cloud option where you can choose the hosting provider of your preference, as well as the option to run AgilePoint behind the firewall in your data center. Regardless of how you choose to consume AgilePoint initially, there is a single code base across each, making for an easy migration between deployment models. If, for example, there was an organizational directive to migrate to the cloud, you can easily lift and shift your applications to the new deployment model without any refactoring or any rebuilding. To log in today, I'm using my Office 365 credentials, but AgilePoint does support the concept of bring your own identity, and as such, support 9 different authentication stores off the shelf, with options like Google, Okta, Salesforce, Active Directory, and Office 365, among others. It's not uncommon for one of our customers to have multiple authentication providers integrated into a single AgilePoint deployment. The interface that you're seeing on screen here is completely customizable, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But suffice it to say, we can create our own custom portal-level menus, our custom pages here for groups, teams, and divisions within your organization. Now let's go ahead and jump in. Before I get too much further here, I did want to point out that AgilePoint is multi-tenant ready, and as such, can have their own isolated database for specific teams or departments within your organization, whether that's for data privacy or for governance purposes. The first major component that I'd like to focus in on today is the end user component that we refer to as our work center, or the task management dashboard. Here I get personalized view of tasks that have been assigned to me, applications that are available, as well as quick access to most commonly accessed reports. When I log in here, I can filter the various types of applications on either a form or a processed application basis. I can paginate my result set, as well as group the applications if they are related to one another. Moving over to my inbox here, I get a completely personalized view based on the applications and tasks that have been assigned to me. You'll see here I have a number of applications, each with a series of tasks that have been assigned to me. Taking my LawBench application as an example, which you'll see later during the demonstration, I can see I have a number of tasks in the conduct consultation stage. If I have a large list of tasks, it might make sense to visually represent their due dates by using the calendar view here. Moving over to my list of tasks here, you'll see I can view this data from a number of different perspectives. Depending on who I am within the organization, it may make sense to view all tasks or teams from my specific department or group, as well as my team. I get great access into the applications that I've worked on previously, as well as those that I've worked on, and can also configure delegations if I go out of the office. Taking a look at some of these tasks here as an example, and clicking into any one of them, I get a context-sensitive flyout menu, which gives me a number of options, again, depending on my level of permissioning. I can view the process as it stands today, and can interrogate the results to understand which step is remaining, who the participants are, and perhaps when they've received their task as an example. In addition, I can also open up the task and action it, reassign it to someone else, send the task back for rework if data was entered incorrectly or needs to be revised, as well as handle exceptions via the Create Linked Work Item task. This essentially allows me to handle scenarios that my process hasn't accounted for and bring in an additional participant on an ad hoc basis. I can also change priority, cancel the process, as well as view a description of the task and the application itself. For larger task lists here, we've opened up the ability to filter through these tasks on a process model or process instance name basis by specific task names, due dates, assigned dates, as well as the specific date range. For our larger customers, they've also implemented custom columns here as well, which further allows for my ability to filter and sort through very large task lists. If I navigate over to processes I've started here, I can view point-in-time view of a form, as well as those that have been submitted historically. Taking my product lifecycle process as an example, by clicking on my report view, I can view completed forms as well as point-in-time view as the application is executing. If I click on My Applications here, I get a customized view of the applications opened up to me. AgilePoint does support the concept of application-level permissioning, and as such, it's very easy to restrict access to specific groups or roles within your organization. And then just closing out the end-user-focused components here is the user statistics page. Now, these are out-of-the-box components that I didn't need to configure in order to start collecting data and derive value. As you can see here, I can view this on either a task or a process basis and understand things like task performance rate, the status of my various applications, as well as surface custom reports that I've generated via the reporting module. Now, you need not use the AgilePoint portal, and in fact, many of our customers love the pluggable nature of the AgilePoint dashboard because it can be natively embedded into any portal or system which is capable of hosting a custom JavaScript and a custom HTML page. We offer off-the-shelf integration into systems like Salesforce as well as SharePoint, but the reality is here, I can get this experience in any portal or system that may be in use within my organization. By embedding just a handful of JavaScript and CSS pages, I can easily get this experience natively embedded into any of the systems that my customers are already using today. Okay, let's move over to the AgilePoint Manage Center. Right, this gives me the ability to perform critical path analysis and business activity monitoring, right, create custom dashboards, as well as manage the processes that are executing in my environment. So the first thing that I want to show here is the access control component. And as you can see here, we can manage access on a user, group, as well as role basis, including the ability to specify delegations if someone's out of office. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the role-based configuration options here. And as you can see, we have a CFO role here. So I want to go ahead and show you that and give you a sense of the level of control and permissioning that can be applied on a user, group, or a role basis. Now there's a number of different sections here. I can control access to various components here within the Manage Center alone. Also from within the process designer, right? The ability to say, initiate a process, suspend or cancel a process, as well as roll it back, right? These are all very powerful capabilities that require a high level of control, right? With fine-grained access. I can select access to the modules here at the top, the ability to generate reports, as well as access to the process builder itself. All in all, there are over 85 levels of permission here that I can enable to have fine-grained control over the appropriate level of access for a user, a group, or a role. In addition, I can also create access tokens into cloud and on-premises data sources. As you know, AgilePoint has one of the most comprehensive integration offerings in the market, with over 70 cloud and on-premises business systems. But what I really wanted to spend some time in here is under runtime management. This, from an administrative perspective, is how I execute or modify applications that are mid-flight. So what I want to do here is I'm going to bring up an existing running application and just give you a sense of some of the management capabilities that we can apply even for a live in-flight application. So you'll see here I only want to search for applications that are running today, and at the top will be the most recent version of this application. If I click on the information button here, I get some good general details about the nature of my application, the number of people involved, tasks that are remaining, and the number of weeks since that step was last actioned. I get a view into the process monitor, which we showed just a moment ago, again, where I can interrogate, understand its participants, due dates, etc. I get a holistic view of all of the activities, which is a combination of human-based tasks as well as automated system activities, a specific view for human interactions, as well as the AgilePoint event log. In addition, I can view the data that was captured as a part of the application and modify it, again, assuming I have the appropriate level of permission. Now, one of the capabilities that I wanted to show you here is really a fairly unique aspect to AgilePoint and allows us to handle exceptions very gracefully. Right? For our purposes today, an exception is some scenario that's come up within my business that my process model has not accounted for. Right? So in this case today, what I'll do is I'll show you how we can roll back or skip forward an instance of a process without taking that application offline and without affecting the end user's experience. Now today I'm showing this manually, and again, this is assuming that I have the correct level of permission, but later during the demo, I will show you how this can be done on an automated basis using artificial intelligence. So essentially what I would want to do today is I can select where I am and where I want the application to go. So in this case, I can skip it forward, I can roll it back a number of steps. I have complete control over how this application executes, including the ability to add in ad hoc tasks as I might need it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go ahead and move this back all the way to my submission step here. And now I can see that task waiting for me in the request data stage. Now, conversely, what if there are new requirements that have come down? Perhaps there are new compliance requirements, right? A new stage or step has been added to my application, but I have all of these applications that are currently mid-execution. Well, AgilePoint makes that very straightforward, right? All I would need to do there to handle that sort of scenario is click Suspend, click Migrate, and that can now easily migrate to a newer version of the application that may have additional steps, additional compliance controls as an example, and again, without affecting the end user's experience. I'm going to go ahead and quickly click Resume there so that I can go back to my dashboard and see that that task is now waiting for me in the Request Data step. And there we go. All right, so the next component that I wanted to spend some time in here is the application designer itself. Now, I have a process-based application on screen, but from here, I can build many different types of applications. Process-based apps, as you're seeing, data-driven or form-based applications. I can create orchestration between systems, as well as SaaS and mobile applications, all from a single design UI. One of the great things about AgilePoint is the breadth and depth of integration. Right? With over 70 supported data sources off the shelf, there are many commonly used business sources from an on-premises as well as a cloud perspective. Right? And let's just take Salesforce as an example, with over 35 workflow actions within Salesforce alone. But the power in AgilePoint is not in what we provide you out of the box necessarily. It's the ability to no-code transform custom elements. Custom workflow actions, custom integrations can be easily dragged and dropped by business users from this panel here, such that even for homegrown systems, or simply systems where we don't provide an off-the-shelf integration, can be used by the less technical user. Now, as you're seeing here, I can design my application and implement my business logic, right, a number of different ways. Right, but the goal here, again, is to minimize the amount of code that we're using and to push the envelope in terms of what can be done via drag and drop. Okay, so that brings us to the forms designer here. Now, what I have on screen is actually a task form as part of a process, but AgilePoint has recently opened up the ability to create data-driven applications or form-based applications that don't have a process component to it. And we've essentially taken a very similar approach here on the form side as we did with the workflow side, in that we have a number of out-of-the-box, pre-purposed controls to handle different types of data. Right? Things like labels and text boxes, drop-down lists, even a Google-esque sort of autocomplete control. Under advanced controls, we have different controls to handle various data types, such that you'll never have to write regex to validate a certain format. That would either be for an email, a credit card, or a social security card as an example. We've even brought in third-party Telerik controls and OEM them at no cost for you. But again, the power in AgilePoint is not in what we provide out of the box. It's through the use of our SDK that we can create custom form controls and custom UI elements, again, that can be dragged and dropped from this console here by less technical users. Now, what you're seeing so far is more or less an out-of-the-box application where some light CSS has been applied. So I can apply my own CSS on a per form or global basis. And similarly with JavaScript, right? JavaScript for a particular form or for all of the forms in a given application. I can build various sorts of rules here. And again, don't need to be very skilled technically to build these types of rules. They're all handled by making various sorts of statements. Right? So if this is the case, then I'd like to show or hide a control as an example. And for more complex scenarios, I can simply chain rules together, enabling me to easily meet the most demanding of requirements without requiring the use of any sort of code, and simply via declarative statements. All right, so that brings us on to the reporting module here, right? And one of the cornerstones of our platform is the ability to perform business activity monitoring, critical path analysis, really to enable the continuous improvement of these sorts of applications. Right, so as such, when I've brought up the report module here, you'll see that I have a list of out-of-the-box reports that are included at no charge, as well as the ability to create customized reports. Right, so here, everything under average processing time is all an out-of-the-box report. But just to give an example of what this can look like here, AgilePoint provides more than 10 visualization styles, right? So you can really select the visualization type that best represents your data, and then push this out to your organization to be viewed on a role basis. Right? So it's very secure, and as we mentioned earlier, can be made available in multiple different areas, right? Things like SharePoint, the AgilePoint portal itself. I've seen these surfaced in Salesforce, right? Many different places that these reports can be consumed, and consumed in a way that's in accordance with governance in mind. And then lastly here, we're brought to the collaborations area. This is where we enable our customers to collaborate around the design of an application or around its execution. Right here, I've integrated Yammer, but we do also support Chatter as well as a number of other social providers. Right, so very easy to get that social stream and embed it directly within the AgilePoint portal itself. All right, so now that we've reviewed the core functionality of AgilePoint NX, let's focus in on the new capabilities that have been added to AgilePoint 7 to enable the citizen developer to build their own process and form-based applications. There's a few features that I want to focus in on today, and we'll start off with the data entity framework. We'll follow that with the ability to create form-based or data-driven applications. We'll show how we can create a custom UI on top of the AgilePoint portal via the page designer, and take that ability to create custom UI and apply it to native, custom-branded mobile applications. We'll show you how we can take those applications offline, whether that's the entire app or just a certain specific set of tasks, and also show how we've provided a jumping-off place with our marketplace and quick start templates. Starting off with the data entity framework, this is really an exciting new addition to the AgilePoint platform because it really does put the power of application development in the hands of the less technical user. Right? Really what this does here is it eliminates the need for database administrator skills. For many of our customers, it's very difficult to coordinate with IT and even gain access to things like database servers as an example. So it provides a reduced burden on IT. Right? From an application developer perspective, the apps are now entirely self-contained and enables the citizen developer to create their own entity model using the browser. Right? Again, providing an abstraction layer on top of a regular database. We polled our customers via the user forum and come up with a list of over 100 out-of-the-box entities as of this video, and are always adding to this list. But it's very easy for a user to define their own custom entities as well. And I will show you here in the next few slides how we can build on these various tables here and use them as a part of a data-driven application. So on screen here, you're seeing a very basic customer entity with a few fields. I want to create a complex relationship between a child table here. So previously I had my customer entity, now I have customer orders, and I can simply create a relationship between those two tables. Once I've designed my entity, it can be used as a data source for building an application, as well as a number of other third-party data sources that may exist already. Right? And not only can I create relationships between AgilePoint entities, but I can create relationships between hybrid entities as well. Perhaps a combination of an AgilePoint entity and one that already exists in Salesforce or SharePoint as an example. All right, taking this a next step further here is the ability to create form-based applications, right, or create data-driven forms. And this really further lowers the bar for application development. And these sorts of applications can really comprise up to 80 or 90% of the application market. Right? Many of our customers have a need to build applications that are not yet workflow enabled. Right? And it enables their less technical users to cut their teeth and practice their skills on a form-based app before moving over to a more complex workflow-driven application. The combination of form-based applications as well as the data entity enables a much more pervasive digital transformation and ultimately higher revenues through a sustained competitive advantage over time. Now, when I'm designing an application, I can choose my primary data source, essentially where the data from the app will ultimately be saved upon submission. Right? So as you can see there, we have obviously database entities, the AgilePoint data entity framework itself, Salesforce, as well as the ability to open up SharePoint-based entities in the next few weeks. So once I've built my entity, I can bind it to the data entities or the child entities directly on the same form here and make it very easy to view all of the records and all of the data associated with one of these applications. As you're seeing on screen here, I have a view of all of my customers, but we also automatically generate a recently modified customers view, recently created customers, so it's very easy to view this data from a number of different perspectives. And then here you see it all playing out on screen, right? We started off with my customer entity. We had an order details table as well, where we created a relationship between those two tables. And now, when we put it on the form, are able to easily create master detail forms, again, with that parent-child relationship that we've spoken to previously. Okay, so the portal page designer here was really rolled out to create custom UI on top of your AgilePoint portal. Right? For a long time, we've had the ability to customize the AgilePoint portal, but it was very much driven by CSS and HTML. Right? And now we've taken the same capabilities to build applications via drag and drop and applied it to a custom page UI on top of AgilePoint. Now, of course, we do have oftentimes a number of different types of users, working alongside one another in this sort of scenario. So not only do we have very powerful design capabilities here, but it's also very closely controlled by permission and governance as well. Okay, moving over to the mobile app accelerator here, where essentially we can create custom branded native mobile applications for any platform using clicks instead of code. The mobile app accelerator supports any major mobile application, Android, Windows Phone, as well as iOS, and provides you with the ability to easily fall in line with your company's branding guidelines by adding images, styling, and even mobile CSS. Once I've built an application, I can host it in any sort of store that makes sense for my customer. Here you're seeing an MDM managed private store. These can also be pushed out to the public store as well. For example, the Google Play Market or the iOS App Store. And then lastly, if you wanted to create an app just for your group or team, we can also create applications for device-specific use. Moving on to the integrations component, AgilePoint has always had one of the most comprehensive integration stories on the market, and that is only further being advanced in AgilePoint version 7. With the addition of the sources that you're seeing here on screen, there are now more than 70 supported on-premises as well as cloud-based data sources, with over 700 workflow actions within each. Many of our customers regularly deal with low or no bandwidth scenarios, and as such, it was important for us to include offline capabilities in AgilePoint 7. Whether it's just a few steps that tend to be performed out in the field, or the entire application, business can now always move forward regardless of your network conditions. Simply open up your form and action the task, and resync the data once an internet connection becomes available. All right, and then lastly here, I wanted to quickly talk about the AgilePoint Marketplace. As we mentioned earlier, right, we understand that the most difficult step in building an app is oftentimes the first step. So we've taken those first steps for you. Right? Again, we've polled our customers via our user form, as well as via regular health checks to understand the 50 most popular process and form-based applications for use. Many of our customers and partners are now taking these applications and adding their own custom logic, their own integrations, and then publish these directly into production. All right, so now that we have the overview out of the way, let's quickly run through a demo of the new features added into version 7 that will enable the less technical user to create their own end-to-end process and data-driven application. From within my Build Apps module, I have a new option here, AgilePoint Data Entities, which in itself is comprised of two components. The first being data entities themselves, where we'll use the browser to design tables with complex relationships, as well as pick lists, which you can think of as an enum. In clicking into the entities product here, you'll see that there is both out-of-the-box entities, over 100 of them, driven entirely by customer feedback through regular health checks with our customers, as well as interactions in our user forum, as well as the ability to create custom entities as well. And I'll show that here in just another moment. Let's quickly scroll through some of the out-of-the-box entities. This is going to include things like working with accounts, contacts or leads, competitors, departments, and many, many more. We've taken a very similar approach with pick lists. This time with over 200 out-of-the-box pick lists, again, to provide data to our entities here. Things like working with account status, case activity, approvals, and things of that nature. So be sure to check back frequently and see how many have been added since your last visit. Because these entities will be used pervasively across the organization, it's important to have fine-grained controls over who can access these entities, and specifically who can create, read, update, and delete. As you can see from the screen here, I can manage this on an individual entity basis, as well as in bulk, which enables me to rest assured that the appropriate levels of access are being maintained for these entities. So let's take one step back here and show you how we can create an entity of our own here in just a couple of moments. This is going to be a customer table here. As such, I'm going to categorize it as under the sales functional area. And simply click on Create. Now, this is going to be an entity about my customers, so I want to capture some information that I would normally gather as a part of any customer engagement. Things like their email address, phone number, As you can see here, I'm specifying the type of data that I'm entering, which will enable AgilePoint to suggest form controls when it comes time to build my application. All right, for the customer's address here, I want to use a text area. And that should be good for now. Now, what I'd like to do is add a hierarchical relationship to this table here with an existing entity. In this case, I'm going to use an AgilePoint entity, but this could be some external entity in a database or other system like Salesforce or Dynamics. This is going to be order-related information here. My parent entity is going to be the account information. I'm going to use the ID here as the primary field, and the child field will be my order information. So just like that, in a matter of a couple of clicks here, I'm able to create a hierarchical relationship here between tables. And it's not uncommon in an average customer application to have 9, 10, or more dependent child tables. So very easy to spin this up and quickly get going as far as building an application goes. So let's show you how we can use one of these entities here to build a new application. And really, this component here is one of my favorite pieces of AgilePoint 7 because it does so much of the heavy lifting on your behalf. As you can see here, when I select a new application, I'm prompted to make a choice between process-based applications as well as form-based apps. Give my application a name here quickly, and click Next. As you can see here, I have a number of options in terms of my primary data source. Now for today, I'm going to use data entity, but as you see, we also have options for SharePoint, Salesforce, as well as creating a widget page, which doesn't have any business data. Now I want to use custom entities only here, and I'm going to use some entities that I had designed previously. I can select the fields that I'd like to use as a part of the application, as well as any related entities, and then simply click Finish. Now what AgilePoint is doing here is it's creating a number of application artifacts on my behalf. Specifically, 2 blank forms, a new customers form, as well as an update customers form. 3 views, all customers, recently created, as well as recently modified customers, and a lookup for each of those views. And clicking OK here, I'll be prompted to start designing the new customers form. And all I need to do now is focus on the data that I'd like to use on my form and simply drag it over from the menu on the right-hand side. Now, when I drag over this child table here, you'll see that AgilePoint is intelligent enough to know that this must be a repeating component, either a subform or a data grid, because I'll potentially be adding in multiple order records. All right, now let's start designing my subform. I'm going to use my project ID here, which will be a number box, the project cost, project status, as well as start date. And then I want to bring over the description field here, which is going to take up a lot of the available real estate. So in just a number of moments here, I'm able to lay out my application, and the bulk of the heavy lifting has been done on my behalf. If I close out of this here and save and check this in, AgilePoint will prompt me to know if I should copy that layout over to the update customers form. Okay, that all looks pretty good, so I'm simply going to save and check this in. I can use the one-click publish capability or the DevOps tooling of my choice to push this application out to my customers. Okay, so that brings us to the next portion of the demo, which is going to be the AgilePoint Page Designer. And the Page Designer really gives an ability to create a custom UI or custom skin on top of your AgilePoint portal, similar to what you might see in your internal intranet. From within the Page Designer here, I can design a number of components. I'll show you a few quick pages here in just a moment, but we can also create a number of different types of menus. From a portal level menu, as you're seeing up here on screen, to page level menus as well. So let's quickly go through a few pre-built examples. As you can see, we've seen a number of applications that are really focusing around internal use cases, namely things like HR, but we've also seen some customers who want to build a public website on top of their AgilePoint experience. And then lastly here, I'll just give you a quick sense of what it looks like to interact with the Page Designer and how easy it is to add different types of media and content to your screen. As you can see here, I have options like buttons and headings, but also the ability to surface AgilePoint components as well, namely eForms, the AgilePoint Task Management Dashboard, as well as other types of media, things like audio, images. I can embed various feeds, like a Twitter feed or a Facebook feed as an example. A variety of card types, as well as layout options to make my page look pixel perfect. All right, now we understand that oftentimes the most difficult step in building an application can be the first step. So it's to that end that we've released a marketplace with over 50 quick start templates. Right, these provide a solid jumping off point to add your own custom logic, your own integrations, before deploying them for use within your organization. Again, in coordination with our customers through health checks and the user forum, we've come up with a list of 50 of the most popular process and form-based application types, right, such that they can be easily used by anyone within your organization. So things like purchase requests, petty cash, customer inquiries, purchase orders, onboarding information, right, offboarding, and things like invoicing. All right, and closing out my demos here, I have the mobile app accelerator where we can use clicks instead of code to generate custom branded native mobile applications. So let's just quickly go through the experience here. I'm going to select my applications. And let's take a look at my sales order app here. All right, and simply I need to navigate through this wizard here in order to generate a custom branded native mobile application that works online or offline. So up front here, I'll specify some basic details about my application, things like the app name and description. If I navigate over to the authentication window, I have the same options that you've come to expect from an AgilePoint perspective, with all 9 authentication providers available here in the mobile app. My first major decision point, however, will be the applications that I'd like to expose in this mobile application. I'm prompted with a choice to select all of the applications that I've deployed or just some subsection thereof, right, giving me the flexibility to make this a single application or an application that is used to access all of the AgilePoint apps that have been deployed within your organization. I can supply my own custom menu options and specify the platform for which this application should be built. It's worth pointing out here that not only do we support every major mobile platform, but we support deployment type as well. You can easily build applications for the public store, as well as private stores that are managed via MDM, including the ability to create applications for your team or group through a device-specific build. I can easily apply my own styling, as well as my own images that fall in line with my organization's branding. And at the end, I simply click Build App, and I'll receive an email notification when that application is ready for consumption. In closing, let's review what we've learned in this module. You'll now understand each component within AgilePoint NX, each module's high-level usage, as well as the value proposition for each. This concludes the content for this video.